Buying a home doesn't just start with finding a house, and it definitely doesn't end when that offer is accepted. So, today we're going to talk about what actually happens between getting pre approved and getting the keys. Welcome, guys, to Teach Me Tuesday. We are definitely excited to be with you guys again today. We got a great topic that a lot of people ask about. They want to know about the home buying process. Everybody's process is a little different. So, today we felt like we're going to just kind of do a step-by-step breakdown on not just getting pre-approved, but what really is happening in between. All right, guys, let's just go ahead and kick this off. So when we're talking about just the home buying process in general, we know already that the first step is that I would say that the person should be at least pre-approved, right? We want
Right.
them to at least know what their buying power is, so they're not just like window shopping. What do you think, Loma? Do you I know you get probably bombarded with people between your listings and people reach out to you probably on social media wanting to probably ask you to take them to look at homes. Do you say, nope, go get pre-approved? Or what do you normally say to them?
Yeah, yeah. It leads to that, guys. Sometimes, of course, um, if I'm meeting with somebody, I was just talking with Gavin, and I had a client that, well, potential client, and they are looking to sell their home to buy another one. So I told him, I said, hey, first thing we need to do is get pre-approved. Okay.
Mhm.
Because what I don't want you to do is be homeless, right? Because I will sell your house, right? So I don't want them to go ahead and sell their home and then they're not approved to buy a new one. So that
Mm.
is like so important to make sure you get pre-approved first for so many reasons.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, week by week, we preach that. Step one, guys, find out your financial situation, find out what you're approved for, so you're not out there just you know, looking at things that you can't afford or you're not approved to buy, and you're getting your expectations, set incorrectly. So definitely, step one, pre-approved, baby. Get pre-approved. Find out what you can buy.
So let's talk about that pre-approval. So what actually happens when a person's getting pre-approved, Gavin? Like give us like a high level summary of what truly goes on in that pre-approval process.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're speaking to a lender and you're getting pre-approved, they're going to pull your credit. They're going to ask for your income documents to find out how much money you make. They're going to look at your debt, your liabilities to figure out, hey, do you have enough room in there to afford a mortgage in conjunction with the debt obligations you already have. So a lot goes into that. I mean, you like that the whole debt analyzation, and then how much your budget. We discussed what do you what kind of payment do you want? I mean, because yeah, you may want a $500,000 house, but if you only want to pay, $2,000 or $1,500 in a mortgage, that those two things don't equate to each other. So that's where all that is figured out, and we help you with being able to digest. Hey, yes, I want to buy a house, but this is where I'm most comfortable, or this is what I can afford. So yeah, I think that's the meat and potatoes of it right there. So
That's good. All right, let's get into step two. This is your area, the house hunting, right? So once they
Right.
pre-approved and you know what they can buy, you guys already had y'all consultation and so forth. Tell us a little bit about like what goes on in the house hunting process. Do you have like a I don't know, like a checklist or whatever, or you already have houses lined up for your clients that want to go out and start viewing things once they're pre-approved?
Yeah, yeah. What I like to do is have, if it's a family or husband and wife or just an individual, like to sit down with them, do what we call a buyer's consultation. Okay. And then we just sit down, write down those must haves in the house. Okay. What are the things that you really want in your home? We already got our budget. And so we know where we want to be financially with this property, but we also got to make sure we get, if not everything we want, the majority of the things we want with that must-have list, because it's so important to have that must-have list when we start looking at different properties, because you might get bombarded with a whole bunch of things that you might want or like in a house, but we want to make sure we get the major things that we want in the property. So
mm,
yeah, that's when we start doing the house hunting, house searching. We go look at it, properties. I send them properties. They let me know, hey, I like this one. Hey, I don't like that one. All right, well, cool. And I might throw in some surprise properties as well, just to kind of, broaden their horizon a little bit if they might not think that they might not be interested in a certain particular property. So, yeah.
That's good to know. So I have a question. This is so off
Hmm.
topic, but I just have a question.
Right.
Is there like a limit to like how many houses you would recommend, a person to see? Because I have had experience with some buyers that may have looked at 30, 40, 50 homes and they still can't make a
Jeez.
decision. I've worked with some realtors, it's like you got 10 or you got 5, and you better find a house in this limit. Like, do you think that do you recommend a certain amount of homes, or you think it just kind of maybe depend on the individual or the family?
Well, with my, let me put it this way, depends on the buyer situation, right?
Okay.
So if they're relocating and they're only in town for a certain amount of time, guess what? We're gonna pack them all in. We're gonna try to pack as many houses as we possibly can to look at. Okay, but if it's not that kind of situation, that's a rare, a rarity to an extent. If it's not that situation, I try to limit to 5 houses a day that we look at
Okay.
because it's a lot of information you're taking in. You forget some of the pros
Right.
and cons of some of the homes that I might have shown you. And I might have to bring them back to your remembrance and be like, you remember that house? It had the nice, kitchen in it with the granite countertops, but you didn't like the bathroom, right? So a lot of times they take notes every time they leave a house. And one of the things I do realize is that, and this is, I don't know if it's a spiritual thing or not, but a lot of times when people walk into their home, it's like a knowing. It's like it's like this is my house right here. I love this home. They spend a whole lot of time in that particular home compared to the other ones. So yeah, hope I answered your
Well,
question.
good. That's good to know. All right, Gab. All right. So my question for you is going to be regarding like, this whole offer acceptance thing, right? Once
Right.
once Wilmot, takes them to look at properties, they feel like they want to, go ahead and put an offer in, and now that they're officially under contract and you receive that contract, what generally happens from there? Like when you get that contract, what's the next step after that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, we're all excited. We just got under contract, ratified, and man, everybody's pumped that we're this person, especially first time home buyers buying a house. So
Mhm.
we want to make that experience as appealing and as pleasing as possible. But here comes where the work comes in. Now we gotta as a realtor, realtors are lining up inspections to make sure that you know the house checks out. We like the everything. We like the appearance. But what about when we peel back the layers to see what's underneath?
Absolutely.
Or we look under the hood to see exactly the how well the property's been maintained. Um, and then you when it comes to me as a lender, we're looking forward to getting your appraisal order for that property to find out the value. Is it worth what you're buying it for? We're looking at moving your file into processing, and getting it looked at by an underwriter immediately to make sure that, hey, with all the specifics for this property, whether it's property taxes, homeowners insurance quotes, things of that sort. Everything is in alignment with what you can qualify for. Because sometimes people find a home that may be right at their budget, or right at what they can qualify for. And if some things can sway, like if it's a HOA fee that we have to take into consideration, some things can
Hmm.
kind of sway, and we just got to readjust and make sure that, hey, you qualify for this home. So that's that initial process of you found the home. Now let's check all the additional boxes to make sure that, hey, yes, you can purchase this home, based on where we have you approved for. But yeah, that's that. After that offer is accepted, those are the next steps.
Yeah, so I really like that
And then I think
because
that just swings right over to Wilmot. Oh, Lashana, thank you.
am I
Go
muted?
ahead. I'm sorry. It was a
Oh,
delay.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. What only thing I was going to add before I swing it over to Wilmot when we talk about like the home inspections and so forth is you kind of said something regarding we find out like if you're if everything is really approved. So of course in the beginning part of the process when we're going through that pre-approval, we kind of just working with estimates or like hypothetical information or numbers. We don't really have like all the facts yet. So once you actually go under contract, what we then do is kind of tailor that contract that you receive, we kind of factor in the actual property taxes and get official homeowners insurance quotes, like Gavin mentioned about the HOA and so forth. And then we actually plug in those numbers to just make sure that, that pre-approval is still, just as solid. And then sometimes I'm sure Wilmot, you can speak to this, is that during that due diligence period, and they go and get that home inspection, they may see some things that they don't like. And so they may decide that they don't, want to proceed. How often would you say you kind of get that? Do you find that happening more often than not, or just it doesn't happen as often, would you say?
Well, it does happen, guys. Guess what? Homes aren't perfect. It's just not, you know. And guess what? A lot of times with older homes, you're gonna find more stuff. Okay. So and I'm not bashing older homes, but also I do know with newer homes, it's sometimes less things that you have to worry about compared to an older home with maybe old plumbing, old electrical, maybe the HVAC unit hasn't been replaced. There's some things that you want to make sure you pay attention to during that home inspection process, or what we call due diligence period. And this is when we do all of our inspections. A general home inspection. You might want an HVAC inspection. If your home has a septic tank, if that property has a septic tank, hey, you probably want a septic tank inspection as well. Get your termite inspection done. These are all the things that we go over with the buyer during that due diligence period. So we make sure the home's components are well maintained, or we might need to ask the seller and renegotiate some things if we can get some things repaired or fixed in the property. So, yeah.
That's good to know. Would you say that there's kind of like a top, maybe two or three things that, um, you know, a person should possibly walk away from if they don't have, if it's not, I wouldn't say perfect, but if it's not intact? Like, is there like, okay, if there's foundation issues, let's walk away from that. If it's HVAC issues, some of those big ticket items, would you suggest that there are certain things you're like, no, this has to be a no go?
Well, it depends on the client, okay? Because of course, you got certain types of clients like your investors. That man, that's hey,
That's true.
they like that kind of stuff because they can negotiate the price even lower. It might be somebody if someone is a first time buyer, don't really have experience with repairs. Okay. Be honest with you, that's something I look for in the initial before we even put an offer in on the house. Okay. And we'll walk through the home. We notice waviness in the floor. We notice the roof is old. We notice the HVAC unit. Those are certain things that your realtor hopefully will bring up to you prior to putting in that offer, because we know what's coming, what's down the line. But to answer your question, LaShawn, big ticket items, old roof, but Mike can get the seller to replace it. Okay, old HVAC unit, Mike can get the seller to replace it. Electrical issues, major electrical issues, Mike can get the seller to fix it. All these things can possibly be fixed or renegotiated some type of way in that due diligence period. So structural
Oh,
issues, foundation issues, that's a big one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anything you want to add, Gavin, before we wrap up? I know
Yeah.
that we kind of made it through, inspections, but I know that loan goes to processing and underwriting and get that final clear to close. But take us home
Yeah, I
with
mean,
your
I'll just
last little stretch.
run through it real quick. I mean, just to tag on to what Wilmot said, absolutely. I think things are situational. I mean, I don't think there's a absolute, you got to walk away from a deal type thing, because if you can negotiate, or things can be, be repaired, or whatever the case may be, it could be situational depending on how savvy your buyer is, or what you're able to negotiate to resolve the concerns that are there. But after all those things are resolved, then yeah, man, your loan goes into processing and now we're ready to move forward and get those final approvals. Goes into underwriting, where the underwriter is the person who makes the ultimate decision on whether or not your loan is going to be approved or not. So yeah, I mean, I know we aren't, we're wrapping up with time, but those are the main steps now after you get your inspections done. Is just finishing out the loan process to where you meet all conditions that are set by your lender to get your financing to go through. And once you get that A-OK, man, you're clear to close. And next thing you know, we all popping champagne bottles at the closing table, and handing you your keys. So I mean that's the process in a nutshell, guys. Anything else anybody else want to add before we wrap up?
Get them keys.
I like all the the effects. So guys, if you definitely have home ownership on your list, on your bucket list, on your to-do list, on your resolution list this year for 2026. If you're trying to buy within the next 6 to 12 months, or you're trying to buy next month, definitely feel free to reach out to any one of us to kind of start that process. We are happy to assist you guys with anything mortgage or real estate related. We'll definitely be back next week with another topic on Teach Me Tuesday, and we thank you guys for tuning in. Y'all have a great week.
Peace. Don't spend that tax money.